I bought one ugly pair of watches. Now my grandkids are set for life. Jerry didn't expect life to surprise him anymore. At 73, with a worn-out back and half a century of grease under his fingernails, he wasn't chasing anything. Not adventure, not luck. He just wanted a watch that worked. His old one, cheap but reliable, had finally died. And without it, his days felt off. So on a cloudy Tuesday, he stepped into a little antique shop off Jefferson. Nothing fancy, just one of those storefronts people walk past without looking in. The place smelled like damp cardboard and old varnish. Inside, shelves groaned under the weight of forgotten things. Dusty radios, cracked mugs, tangled extension cords, a mannequin torso in a prom dress. There was no music, just the tick of a wall clock with no hands. Jerry looked around for 5 minutes before asking the man behind the counter, a thin fellow in a sweater with elbow patches, if they sold wristwatches. Got a few, the man said. Most don't work, but one still ticks. He brought out a tray. Some were missing straps, a few had fogged over glass. One had what looked like a band-aid holding the case shut. Then the man reached under the counter and added 2 more. Pulled these off the shelf last year, he said. Nobody wanted them. Too plain, I guess. One had a blue dial, soft and faded like denim left in the sun. The leather strap was dry, curling at the edges. The man reached under the counter and added 2 more, lighter, missing a band with scratches around the bezel. Jerry held them both in his palm. Not pretty, but they felt right. Solid, unfussy. How much for the pair? He asked. 40. 30 if they're as ugly as they look. The shopkeeper chuckled. Deal. He didn't even wear them at first. They sat on his kitchen counter for days, beside the mail. He figured he'd clean one up when he had time. And that's when his neighbor stopped by. A younger guy, early 50s, always reading watch blogs on his phone. He spotted the blue one immediately. Whoa, where'd you get that? Jerry looked over. That old thing? Antique store down on Jefferson. The man picked it up, turned it over in his hand. His face changed. Mind if I take a quick photo? He asked. I think I know someone who'll want to see this. Jerry shrugged. Sure, why not? He had no idea that $30 decision was about to rewrite everything. The next morning, Jerry didn't think about the watches. He made coffee, fed the neighbor's cat like he'd promised, and fixed a sticky cabinet drawer that had been bugging him for weeks. At 73, his days weren't busy, but they had rhythm, predictability. He liked it that way. Then, around 10, his phone rang. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. This time, he answered. Mr. Sinclair? A polite voice. Male. Slight accent. This is Emil Kramer. I was forwarded an image of a wristwatch you recently acquired. I work with Vintage Horology Archives in Zurich. May I ask, do you still have the piece? Jerry blinked. Yeah. I mean, it's sitting on my counter. I understand this is unexpected, the man continued. But the photograph shows what appears to be a pre-serial design of the Caliber 321 series. Specifically, a dial configuration that was never released publicly. It's extremely rare. Jerry scratched his chin. The next morning, Jerry didn't think about the watches. He made coffee, fed the neighbor's cat like he'd promised, and fixed a sticky cabinet drawer that had been bugging him for weeks. At 73, his days weren't busy, but they had rhythm, predictability. He liked it that way. Then, around 10, his phone rang. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. This time, he answered. Mr. Sinclair? A polite voice. Male. Slight accent. This is Emil Kramer. I was forwarded an image of a wristwatch you recently acquired. I work with Vintage Horology Archives in Zurich. May I ask, do you still have the piece? Jerry blinked. Yeah. I mean, it's sitting on my counter." "I understand this is unexpected," the man continued, "but the photograph shows what appears to be a pre-serial design of the caliber 321 series. Specifically, a dial configuration that was never released publicly. It's extremely rare." Jerry scratched his chest. A pause, then a calm reply. "Old, yes, but not just old." That night, Jerry called his son. "Let me guess," Paul said. "You're being scammed." "Could be," Jerry admitted, but he didn't ask for anything. Just wanted to confirm I still had it. "What's it worth?" "No idea," he wouldn't say. There was silence on the line. Then Paul sighed. "Maybe have someone look at it, just to be sure. Better than wondering." 2 days later, Jerry drove 40 miles to a vintage watch dealer a friend of Paul's had recommended. The place was small, spotless, and smelled like money. The kind of shop where everything sat on velvet, and even the light bulbs looked expensive. The appraiser wore gloves. He barely said a word for the first 10 minutes. Just turned each watch in the light, took notes, made quiet sounds with his mouth. Then he looked up. "Sir, where did you find these?" "Antique shop," Jerry said. $40 for both." The man looked stunned. "I don't say this lightly, but the one with the blue dial, that's not just rare, that's museum level. And this other piece, I'm not certain yet, but it could be a prototype. There's no reference record for it in any archive I've seen." "Meaning?" "Meaning," the man said slowly, "you may have accidentally bought something that never should have ended up in a cardboard box." Jerry leaned back in the chair. His jaw didn't drop. His eyes didn't widen. But something shifted. A quiet little thought tucked itself behind his ribs and whispered, "Maybe life still has 1 or 2 surprises left." He didn't tell anyone else about the watches for a week. He went about his days like nothing had changed. Mowing the lawn, grocery runs, fixing the same drawer again because it jammed anyway. But the blue watch didn't leave his side. He kept it in a folded sock inside the drawer next to his bed. Checked on it once or twice a day just to see that it was still there. He didn't wear it. It felt sacred somehow, or dangerous. Like putting it on might break the spell. The second watch, the slimmer, bandless one, sat quietly in a small ceramic bowl in the kitchen. Nobody seemed to notice it. But he knew better now. They were both rare. They were both real. And according to Kramer, the man from Zurich, who emailed again 2 days later, the blue dial piece might be one of 3 known to exist if authenticated. Then the first offer came. An email. No introduction. $42,000 USD. For both. Cash wire, immediate pickup. Jerry stared at the screen. He closed the laptop. The next morning, it was $55,000. Different sender. Better grammar. By the weekend, someone called the landline. Claimed to represent a collector in London. Wanted to fly in, just to see them in person. Paul came over that Sunday and found Jerry sitting on the porch with both watches laid out on a folded towel. "You all right, Dad?" "I think so," Jerry said. "I just don't get it. I've worked my whole life, never owned anything worth more than a truck. And now, some piece of metal is worth more than my pension." Paul sat down beside him. "You thinking of selling?" Jerry nodded. "Yeah, but not to the first guy waving a check." Paul smiled. "That's the smartest thing I've heard all week." The following Monday, a man named Levi showed up in a rental car with New York plates. He didn't wear a suit. Just jeans, blazer, soft accent, maybe Belgian? He didn't offer money at first. He asked questions. Wanted to know where the watches were stored, who else had seen them, what Jerry knew about their origin, and finally, how much he wanted. Jerry shrugged. "I was thinking about a number." Levi tilted his head. "Would 6 figures be in the right neighborhood?" Jerry didn't answer. He just watched the wind move through the tree across the street. He wasn't ready to say yes, but he also wasn't ready to say no. That night, he sat at the kitchen table long after the lights were out. The house was quiet. The old wall clock had stopped again. The watches were in front of him, resting in a clean dish towel like some sacred offering. He could sell one, keep the other, or hold them both until he was gone and leave them to the boys. He didn't need the money. But it wasn't really about that. It was the first time in his life that the world came to him, not for what he could fix or build or carry, but for something he already held, something he didn't have to work for. And that felt strange, but maybe not wrong. Maybe it was just earned differently. The decision didn't come all at once. It built slowly, like rust lifting from a bolt, one careful turn at a time. Jerry chose the blue dial watch, not because it was more valuable, though it was, but because it felt complete, a whole thing, like something made to last. The thinner prototype, he decided, would stay with him, at least for now. Levi handled the rest. He arranged a private appraisal in New York, then quietly connected Jerry with a low-profile international auction house that dealt in ultra-rare timepieces. Jerry didn't even go. He shipped it, insured to the ceiling, and waited. The auction ran online, invitation only. The winning bid came in 3 hours before the deadline. $328,400. Jerry saw the number, blinked, and made himself a sandwich. No champagne, no big speech. He just sat at the table, chewing slowly, thinking about how strange it was that something you barely noticed once could change everything. The wire arrived the following week. He moved half into an account for the grandkids. The rest he left sitting, untouched, like a lake that didn't need stirring. No big purchases, no new truck. He still wore his old jeans and used coupons at the grocery store. But something inside had shifted. He'd always thought life rewarded people who worked hard, kept quiet, showed up on time. Turns out, sometimes it rewards you later, when you're not looking, when you're not asking. And when it does, you'd better be ready to hold it in both hands. He kept the prototype watch in a drawer by his bed. Sometimes at night, he'd take it out and turn it in the light. It didn't tick, but he didn't mind. Not everything valuable has to move to be alive. And he still hadn't decided what to do with it. Not yet. Funny, he said one night, smiling to himself. All I wanted was to tell the time. Now time's telling me something back. Would you keep the second one? Or cash out while the offers still come? Tap subscribe. I'm not done yet. The money didn't change his life. Not in the way people expect it to. He didn't move. Didn't buy a cabin or a Corvette. Didn't even fix the porch swing that squeaked when the wind came through from the east. But he opened accounts for his grandkids. Quietly. No fuss. And he added one line in his will. They won't have to worry like we did. Paul offered to help him invest what was left. Jerry said no thanks. He didn't trust men in suits to do anything he couldn't do with a coffee-stained notebook and a calculator from 1987. But he did buy one thing. A display case. Small, glass top, walnut sides. He put the second watch in there, the slimmer one. Still scratched, still silent. He placed it on the shelf near the back door, just above where he kept the spare keys and the bag of birdseed. Not as a prize, not to brag, but as a reminder of time, of timing, of how life, every now and then, reaches back and hands you something without asking who you were before. Some months later, a letter came from the Swiss Museum of Mechanical Design. They'd heard about the auction, asked if he might consider loaning the second piece for display. No pressure, Just admiration. He read it twice. Then, without even standing up, wrote back, "Thank you kindly. Maybe someday. For now, it stays home. G. Sinclair." And that's how it ended. Not with a bang, not with a parade, but with a man sitting on a porch in the afternoon sun, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. That he'd done something right. That maybe, finally, life had nodded back.